Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse. It is Nigel once again, and this is going to be another wrestling review. So, right off the bat, let's address the elephant in the room. Or should it be the elephant outside the room? Because as there is a very bright light coming from my window. Thankfully, it wasn't as bright as it was like 10 minutes ago, but it is still pretty bright, and it might interfere with the recording. It might look super bright like Sheamus's entrance, so do bear with me. I am in control of quite a bit when it comes to the channel, but the one thing I'm not in control of is how bright the sun decides to be. And now you see why I prefer to record later on at night. Granted, it's not as bright. It's not as much of a bright interference as other videos on the channel, and there's definitely some where the sun decides to give me the finger essentially and mess with the lighting on my recording. But in the meantime, enough of that. At September 7th, not only was my 24th birthday, but Tony Khan himself decided to grant me a little bit of a birthday present in presenting AEW All Out. And what a night, and what a ripple effect that's carried over from the weeks afterwards. We do have quite a bit to talk about when it comes to this show and some of the consequences when it comes to the show. We talk about ripple effects or butterfly effects in wrestling. This one might have some. I'm not gonna lie, but as always, I'm not professional. I'm not a professional wrestling reviewer, analyst, or anything like that. Just a man who enjoys a good time, and I had a really great time. I mean, yeah, the meme of All In being all super sunny and chirpy and cheery versus All Out being a lot more dark and brooding, but it definitely felt that way. Kind of I don't necessarily want to say tale of two halves because the shows aren't necessarily connected, but and having them so close to each other and having fairly different shows, I think was interesting. But what exactly went down at All Out? Let's find out. If you've seen these reviews of mine before, you kind of already know how this works. If you haven't, I'm going to be talking about what I liked and disliked about each match, and I am going to go match by match. But we have some pre-show matches beforehand. Now the pre-show matches I didn't watch because I usually don't watch the pre-show matches. And B, I usually don't watch the pre-show matches. B, I don't B, they don't even show like the pre-show on like Triller TV. I could go to, if I really wanted to watch the pre-show, I would have to go probably to like the live stream on YouTube, the 0 hour, because they broadcast it there. But it's even some of the early matches I missed out on. So the day of my birthday, aka when this event took place, I actually was out and about. I was picking up the food that we were having. We were kind of having a mini party of sorts, and I was out picking up the food, and there goes the sun. Here comes the sun. Do 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 do. But I was picking up the food along with my sister, and so I did miss the first couple matches. Thankfully I came back just in time. I came back in time for Osprey versus Pac, and then something else came up, so I ended up missing Statler versus Nightingale. But I went back and rewatched those. Rewatched the first two matches that I missed, as well as the Nightingale Statlander match, which, oh boy, I am glad I did. But we will get to that, because first we gotta start with a grudge match of sort, or it's friends, or at the very least allies, turn very bitter enemies as MJF, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, takes on Danny Garcia. So this stems from the International Championship match that Daniel Garcia had with Will Ospreay, and afterwards MJF turning on Daniel Garcia, turning heel once again, and then staking his claim into the International Championship, won it, renamed it the All American Championship. It lost it at all in with help from Daniel Garcia. So Daniel Garcia, beaten down, bloodied, he after losing to Ospreay and then coming back at All in London and making this match here and building up. Well, I should say, a lot of the match was built up already, essentially because MJF attacked Garcia, but then to build to another match here on short notice. Is AEW, who to their credit, it definitely knows how to build a match on short notice. And like I said, a lot of the legwork was done already because of the turn, but then to further establish, okay, they're gonna face one-on-one at All Out, and these two, who are absolutely out to maim each other, and maim each other, they kind of did. This was an awesome match, and an awesome way, to kick off the show. We saw the great in-ring technical work from both men, and sadly, because of his character, I feel like people often forget just how fantastic MJF truly is in the ring, and Daniel Garcia, of course, as well. But that also the brutality as well. Daniel Garcia getting busted open, not even getting entrance. He attacked MJF during his entrance, which I gotta point out. MJF, what on earth were you wearing that night? Like that was not a good look in terms of trunks and everything. And I know I don't often point out attires unless it's super relevant, but MJF, those trunks with that green and that brown, yeah, definitely not a good look. Almost in the territory of the Shawn Michaels poop brown tights from Survivor Series 2002, but I guess they can't all be 10s, but if you want to see more MJF attires and my thoughts on them, go check out my MJF tier list I did some months ago. But as for this match, attires aside, both men absolutely, he beating the crap out of each other. MJF even busting open Daniel Garcia again. Daniel Garcia had a bandage on his head, and MJF ripped it off and tore into him and tore into the wound, and just has very much like a scrappy fight feel. Some technical wizardry, but also just a scrappy fight feel. You can feel the hatred and vitriol between these two, at least in terms of the ring, and at least in terms of kayfabe. But them absolutely beating the snot out of each other, and the ending of the match was a bit head scratching. I'll admit it. That being MJF kind of a surprise roll up after a huge low blow, and kind of a jackknife roll up. Almost looked like it may have been accidental. It did look a bit awkward with the roll up and kind of the way the camera kind of obscured it a little bit. It kind of going on the back of the referee Bryce Rensburg, or you could. It almost seemed like it maybe either that wasn't how the match was supposed to end, or it may not have been supposed to end that way. But otherwise, MJF does get the win there. Or kind of surprising. I guess it's not that surprising. On one hand, this definitely did feel like a layup. Garcia finally getting his revenge on MJF, but at the same time, I imagine they probably didn't want MJF to lose 2 pay-per-views in a row. But afterwards, it's MJF wanting to go for the handshake. Garcia takes the bait, or at least you think, because when MJF goes for the low blow again, Garcia catches it and takes him out with the pile driver from the top. So getting his revenge in that way, and writing MJF off, because MJF went on to film a movie, and that movie, it seems that movie, he is Happy Gilmore too. So he's gonna have a role in Happy Gilmore. So MJF kind of transitioning into Hollywood, which is not unfamiliar territory, of course he was in the Iron Claw, but going on to film the movie, so I imagine he probably won't be gone for too long. But yeah, it's just a really awesome match, and the story he told throughout was great, especially them bringing up the injuries, Dan Garcia, his injuries from MJF, and then MJF have his injury from his match with Ospreay, including the Tiger Drive, which is why MJF had the Coleco tape on like his neck and everything, and even MJF having to let go of a hold because of the pain in his neck. So, the story throughout and the absolute fight feel of this match, I think, is what made it a really, really awesome match and a really, really great way to start off the show. And if you can believe it, it's gonna get a whole lot more interesting as the night goes on. But next up for the AEW World Tag Team Champions, 2/3 of the Trios Champions, that being the Blackpool Combat Club's Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, take on the Young Bucks, the tag team, the Young Bucks, that being Matthew and Nicholas Jackson. Admittedly, I was kind of conflicted as to this match being set up. On one hand, Claudio and Wheeler, as I mentioned, just are 2/3 of the Trios Champions. In fact, just won them essentially 2 weeks ago at All In the ladder match, of course. But they do bring up the history between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club, including the wars they fought last year, both in the Anarchy in the Arena and and in the Blood and Guts match. But I'd bring it back here, but it did feel kind of weird. Like, why are Claudio and Wheeler, the Trios Champions, taking on the Tag Team Champion? And now you may be asking, Nigel, how is this any different from a match we're going to see next, that being Pac, the other third of the Trios Champions, take on Will Ospreay, the International Champion? And admittedly, that is a good question, but I think it is a bit different because one set is Tag Team Championships, that being the World Tag Team Championships and the World Trios Championships, and the other set is the single championships, that being, in this case, it's the International Championship. So I think it's a bit different, and it's not quite as jarring, especially because Pac has been Trios and International Champion before. He was already International Champion by the time he and the Lucha Bros, aka the rest of Death Triangle, won the Trios Championships. And what an interesting time the Lucha Brothers have been having as of late. But I think this time it is a bit different. It is a bit weird, but nevertheless, the Young Bucks defend against the Blackpool Combat Club here. And this match definitely was a lot of fun. Claudio and Wheeler getting up to their usual shenanigans, working well as a team. The Young Bucks getting up to their usual shenanigans, and I think I think this match really put into perspective why I think this character is working for the most part for the Young Bucks, this whole EVPs and everything, is that they are such like cocky, annoying heels, but they're also not afraid to be the butt of the joke. Their moves backfiring each other, such as Nick's leg being kicked in the mat, or might have been vice versa. No, I think it was Nick accidentally kicking Matt or Nicholas kicking Matthew, who I might use them interchangeably, but moments like that, or like the quadruple wishbone on spots that they were doing, or of course the spin that Claudio does, of course. Or so the Young Bucks having this character to the point where you can take them seriously for the most part because they are winning and they are the tag team champions, but they're not afraid to be goofy and not afraid to be the butt of the joke. So I think it allows them to work in that pocket. But ultimately, the Young Bucks picking up the win and escaping Chicago here with the World Tag Team Championships, which I forgot to mention, we are once again in Chicago. And kind of another kind of roll up. This one being more of an inside cradle on Wheeler Yuta. So 2 matches in a row where they pull that out. But And ultimately, the Young Bucks picking up the win and are still the tag team champions. But it's still a pretty fun match between these two. But next up, the match that, admittedly, I was probably this and the main event we'll get to probably were like the two matches I was looking forward to the most, but especially this one, on that being for the International Championship as Will Ospreay takes on Pac. As soon as this match was announced, and as soon as this match was even a possibility, with Pac stating his intention for the International Championship, and when it seemed obvious that Will Ospreay was going to win against MJF, my first thought was, yes, gimme. I was so hyped for this match, and I must say, this match did not disappoint. These two absolutely tore the house down on some stiff shots. Some high flying is what we expected, and it's essentially what we got. Pac looked really good in defeat. Ospreay still going strong as international champion, and just absolutely tearing the house down. Did these two, who no amount of words will do this match justice. I definitely recommend checking it out. It's not often that kind of dream matches deliver, but I think this one absolutely did. And excuse me, and Ospreay getting 2 wins back to back. So, which I guess is perfect timing for him to also challenge for the tag team championships alongside Kyle Fletcher. Or as it seems that Fletcher may be on his way out of the Don Callis family, or we may be seeing the split of the Aussie Open / the United Empire, perhaps. But that is obviously for a different time. That being a few weeks later, obviously at Grand Slam. But as for this match, definitely a whole lot of fun. Definitely a very, very fun match. But next up, we go from fun to even more fun. The fun keeps going as Chris Statlander and Willow Nightingale, former best friends turned bitter enemies, collide in a Chicago street fight. And ooh, baby, what a match! Ooh, a lot of fun was this match. And actually, now that I think about it, I also didn't mention what happened on the pre-show. Let's quickly go through what happened on the pre-show. The Acclaimed defeated the Iron Savages. As Hologram, Sammy Guevara, and Dusty Rhodes defeated the Premier Athletes. The Bang Bang Gang defeated the Dark Order, and the Undisputed Kingdom defeated Shane Taylor Promotions and Action Andretti and Top Flight. All of these were either tag team matches or trios matches. That last one being a 3-way trios match. But anyway, now that that's out of the way, only because I forgot. But now that's out of the way, back to this match. Ooh, baby, this was a fun match. This was a brutal match, and this was definitely a hard-hitting match. And I do like that Willow Nightingale is a face and very bubbly, but also is not afraid to get dangerous and do what she needs to do in order to pick up the win, and not to do the whole WAW kind of thing, because I've mentioned several times on this channel before how corny I think that is, but that I think is something that WWE can take some notes on. You can have your faces, but still give them an edge, and Nightingale still had that edge, including nailing Chris Statlander with the glass tube and nailing her with the chain. She had the chain wrapped around her arm, and Chris Statlander even missing the axe kick and going legs first, almost no zone first into the tacks that were brought out. Yes, and you knew it was gonna be a fun one from Jump Street and in like the first 5 minutes, Will Nightingale goes through the announce table, and just these two just went back and forth, just all kinds of carnage and action. Stokely Hathaway pieced out like in like the early stages of this match, and then things just went from there. The brutality, the physicality, not the last we're gonna see of it on this show. Oh, by no means, but these two ladies definitely brought it. A lot of people feel like this is match of the night, and if it wasn't for the main event, it very well could be, because this was a damn good match. If you haven't already, and if you don't watch anything else from this show, which I think you absolutely should, I think it's a very solid show, but even if you don't watch anything else from the show, definitely recommend checking out this match. But ultimately, Statlander gets the win on Nightingale, and it seems that the feud is over for the most part, or for now, between these two, who it seems that they're moving on in their feuds, but or in separate feuds. But next up in a 4-way match for the AEW Continental Championship, Kazuchika Okada defends against Mark Briscoe, Orange Cassidy, and Konosuke Takeshita. So a lot of stories kind of intersecting here. Of course, Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy are teaming up as the conglomerate. Takeshita and Okada are also have also kind of been having their issues with one another, and I think all four of these guys definitely did what they need to do. About the same length as Statlander versus Nightingale, but both 15 minutes each. But this match was also a lot of fun. An interesting restraint. I do kind of like the restraint. Not having Mark Briscoe and Orange Cassidy fight a whole lot. They did mix it up a bit, but keeping it to a minimum, I think, was smart. And all four guys got to show what they're about. We got some of the Takeshita Okada, but they did hold out a bit. It's as you can imagine, and Okada ultimately getting the win and retaining the Continental Championship here. But yeah, just a really fun match there. But next up for the AEW TBS Championship, in which Camille was banned from ringside, Mercedes Moné defended against Hikaru Shida. So Mercedes Moné, of course, was winning the international championship, not international championship, my apologies, TBS championship back at Double or Nothing, and been defending it since. Defeated Britt Baker at Wembley Stadium at All In, and now seeking to battle Hikaru Shida here. This match was okay for the most part. This match was pretty decent compared to everything else. I am gonna say right off the bat, and obviously we're gonna get more into it as I kind of wrap up towards the end. And this is kind of the weakest match of the night, but I think both women still did really well. They still did pretty decently, and Mercedes Moné picking up the win, and even without Camille, also continuing that. Obviously, we see the turn coming. We know eventually Mercedes Moné and Camille, the Brick House, will cross paths eventually. But in the meantime, I'm still kind of building towards that. Their lines just started, but yeah, so a pretty decent match between these two. But next up in the semi-main event for the AEW World Championship, the American Dragon Bryan Danielson defends against the TNT champion, the Scapegoat, Jack Perry. So, I mentioned earlier how it was kind of weird that the trios champions, that being Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta, were battling for the tag team champions, and I feel the same way when it comes to Jack Perry battling for the World Championship here, while also being the TNT champion for the aforementioned reasons. That being said, though, still not a bad match. I think a lot of people sadly do write off Jack Perry for somewhat obvious reasons, but Jack Perry's still able to hold his own for the most part against Danielson, and Danielson still able to do his thing. And Jack Perry, not the first time Jack Perry had been fighting for the World Championship, lest we forget, obviously, the Four Pillars match last year at Double or Nothing. But I think Jack Perry still did well here, still held his own, and of course falling victim to the Psycho knee. And Jack Perry I was stretching his arm saying, hit me with the knee. He's sorry, Jack, but it was only cool when Bray Wyatt did it. But nevertheless, as Danielson obviously obliges, and Jack Perry's defeated there. But then out comes Christian Cage with a contract at first going to seemingly cash in, and actually let's back up a bit, because first Killswitch does attack like Bryan Danielson, and kind of a cool moment where Killswitch and Jack Perry kind of stare at each other. Obviously, former friends. Killswitch, of course, the former Luchasaurus, and so those former friends and former tag team partners staring at each other before Christian Cage also comes out. I'm surprised it took them that long since Jack Perry's return and everything, and slash since his heel turn. I'm surprised it took them that long for Jack Perry and Christian Cage and Luchas and Killswitch to have kind of an interaction. But Christian Cage coming down with the contract before the Blackpool Combat Club shows up, that being, and the rest of the BCC shows up, that being Pac, Wheeler Yuta, Casanelli, and John Moxley. So they kind of fend off Cage and Killswitch, and you're celebrating it first, and then Castagnoli with the uppercut, taking out Danielson before John Moxley busts out the plastic bag and pretty much tries to murder Bryan Danielson, and Wheeler Yuta obviously not happy being held back by Pac. Now this is kind of where things get a little murky. So this does lead to Emily. I am a bit lost if Danielson and now kinda Yuta, Yuta's still technically part of the BCC. If this is Danielson being kicked out of the BCC, the Blackpool Combat Club, or the Blackpool Combat Club dissolving entirely, because obviously Moxley hasn't really been with the BCC as of late. He's kind of been running around with Marina Shafir and if she's taking Danielson's place in the Blackpool Combat Club, or it seems on commentary, it seems like they're alluding to the Blackpool Combat Club being totally dissolved. Also, I think that's where they're going towards. But unfortunately, AEW kind of double booked themselves when it comes to Danielson, because he was taken out here, and the BCC officially turns heel and turns on Danielson. But then also Nigel McGuinness has his feud with Bryan Danielson, and they just had the blow up to that on Grand Slam with Bryan Danielson and Nigel McGuinness having their match, and Danielson then getting Moxley back by choking him out with the tie. Danielson choking John Moxley with the tie, which I imagine Justin Roberts probably saw that and had some PTSD. If you know, you know. But and Moxley beating Darby Allin to take his championship opportunity, so it will be Moxley versus Danielson at Full Gear. So much for Darby Allin potentially winning the World Championship, am I right? But the reason I say they're kind of double booked is because they kind of it was weird because Nigel McGuinness has his feud with Danielson, and it's not that it didn't have a story. Yeah, I know a lot of people were talking about how it didn't have a story. It did. Nigel McGuinness calling out Bryan Danielson several times on commentary, and now that he's kind of back in the ring, having returned at All In, and at least in ring competition, and now seeming to trying to make good on that promise of taking out Danielson and everything. So the story is absolutely there, but it's also kind of weird because Danielson might not have even been cleared to compete. Of course, taken out by the Blackpool Combat Club, and now the Blackpool Combat Club having the storyline where they took out Danielson. So kind of double booking themselves, and it was kind of weird here. Like, the problem isn't that there wasn't a story on either side, because there absolutely was, but it was more so the timing. I think, me personally, how I would have done it is, and it's also worth mentioning, apparently Nigel McGuinness versus Bryan Danielson wasn't for the title. They talk about how it's just a match for personal pride. Hey, and I actually didn't even hear them announce it for the AEW World Championship. If I thought that the match between McGuinness and Danielson was for the AEW World Championship, apparently it wasn't, so I guess I missed that. But yeah, it was kind of weird because why is McGuinness calling out Bryan Danielson to this match when Danielson might not be there because of being taken out by the Blackpool Combat Club? I think how I would have done it is have the turn between the two happen at Grand Slam, and have him have another reason, I guess, for the match with Harvey. Honestly, you probably still could do Moxley beating Darby Allin for the title shots, or make it a triple threat. But either that or have Darby Allin face Bryan Danielson at Wrestle Dream before then having Danielson face Mox at Full Gear, or the match might be for Wrestle Dream. Okay, hey, yeah. So, the match is actually for Wrestle Dream between Danielson and Moxley. So I got that wrong. My apologies. But honestly, now I think about it, you probably could stretch this out to Full Gear. Yeah, I'm sticking with my initial story. Obviously, now the match between Danielson and Moxley is happening at Wrestle Dream. But you know what? I'm sticking with my thing. Have Darby versus Bryan Danielson. They're both obviously from Washington and from the Seattle area in Washington, and Brian's from I know Brian's from Aberdeen, but this is taking place in Tacoma, so never mind. But yeah, have Darby versus Danielson at Wrestle Dream, and then have Mox versus Danielson at Full Gear. But how I do it is have the match with McGuinness at Grand Slam, do the feud with McGuinness, is have that take place at Grand Slam, and then get that out of the way, and then have the turn happen. Then first you have Mox turn on Danielson, and Danielson goes into his match with Darby at Wrestle Dream, and then that's when the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, Sans Yuta, I guess, turn on Danielson, and then have that lead into Full Gear. Is it still kind of messy? Yeah, but I think it'd be a bit cleaner of a transition having these two big profile feuds so close together and almost over pretty much overlapping on top of each other. I don't know if this is making a lick of sense what I'm talking about, but having these two feuds kind of overlap on each other, I think, was a bit weird. And I wasn't against either. Like the story with Mox, a lot of people have been tuning into and seeing what Mox and Marina Shafir, and now I guess the rest of the Blackpool Combat Club, have been getting up to, and same with now the feud with Nigel McGuinness as well. But I think it was kind of weird how they went about it. Essentially, I think that's really the point I'm getting to. It is kind of weird how they went about it. But enough of that. It's time for your main event and All Out. Technically, by AEW canon, the World Championship match is the main event. And because this next match is unsanctioned, and if you thought Statlander versus Nightingale, or even MJF versus Garcia was the grudge match, you ain't seen nothing yet, as Swerve Strickland, the former AEW World Champion, takes on Hangman Adam Page. So Hangman Adam Page is back and has been gunning for Swerve. So Hangman, and absolutely wanting to annihilate Swerve, which makes sense because of all the things Swerve had done to him, including, breaking into his house. So it led to Hangman Adam Page setting Swerve's childhood house on fire. Turnabout is fair play, I guess. As a lot of people feel like Hangman Page is the face here. He burned down a house. He committed arson. As far as I'm concerned, they're kind of both heels in this story. As much as you dislike the guy for breaking into your house, that's still arson. And I guess kind of right thing or wrong thing for the right reason, I guess. But it has led to this unsanctioned lights out match. Even though the lights were still kind of on for this match, they didn't really turn off the lights, but still having this lights out steel cage match. And ooh baby, this match was a lot of fun. This match had a lot of brutality, but man, oh man, did it cause a lot of controversy. Swerve and Hangman, and pretty much beating the absolute crap out other. And I know I've said that quite a few times throughout the night, but this one, you really felt it. And just using anything and everything to just annihilate each other. And you really felt the hatred and vitriol between these two. Hangman absolutely wanting to go after Swerve, and Swerve doing everything he can to put away Hangman, and including in the ending, which is where the controversy came in, and that being Hangman taking out a hypodermic needle, which I guess is kind of a numbing needle in a way, a sticking Swerve with it before absolutely annihilating him, just blasting him with like the sickest thud with the steel chair. Ooh, my goodness. It was probably one of like the sickest things, and I think the perfect way to end the match. And you know what? Props to AEW. They got away with referee stoppage in a steel cage match because steel cage or not, that's gotta hurt her and Swerve getting absolutely annihilated in that with that spot in the match. But it did cause a lot of controversy. A lot of people were upset, and not just with the needle, but then he totally unprotected chair shot to the head. It was a very gnarly, and actually I'm gonna turn my light on. It was a very gnarly steel chair shot, and I cannot imagine that was a fun spot to take from Swerve. Not just the needle, but then just blasting him with the steel chair, and it definitely made a lot of people uncomfortable. Well, and I can see why. Like me personally, I think it was a really awesome way to end a very awesome match. But I can see why a lot of people would feel uncomfortable by it, especially knowing the history of stuff like that in pro wrestling. An example I can think of is the several little chair shots that The Rock delivered to Mankind in front of his wife and child, no less. Yeah, so just an absolute sick thud. But at the same time, probably the perfect way to end this match and really to end this feud. I think this feud really should end here. Yeah, Swerve could get his lick back, and they definitely would put on another banger, I'm sure. But I think having this be the end to the match, I think is really good, and the callbacks to what happened in their rivalry up to this point, including Swerve of now hailing childhood photos of him and his family to Hangman's face. It's not quite artwork, but it'll do. But yeah, so brutal match and brutal way to end the show, and a lot of people pointing out how smartly how Hangman almost feeling a bit of remorse after what he's done, but at this point fully going in dark side, going full Anakin, and at least he didn't murder children this time. But obviously Hangman hasn't done that. I'm just making a comparison to Anakin Skywalker, aka Darth Vader. But yeah, so I think really he really brutal match, and again, my words won't do it justice. Definitely check out this match. It definitely will make you uncomfortable, I'm sure, but it definitely is. I think ending it with this match, I could see them ending with the World Championship match, but I think ending it with this match was even better. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for All Out. As for the strongest and weakest match of the night, strongest definitely got to go to the main events. Like, the main events absolutely tore the house down. And controversy aside, despite what you feel about the ending, I think still a really awesome way to end the show. As for the weakest match, probably the TBS Championship match. But nevertheless, that is going to do it for this review. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please do me a favor: like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and turn on post notifications. Every time I upload a video, so you can see it as soon as it drops. Excuse me. But let me know in the comments what your thoughts on the match, my review of the match. Did you like this match? Did you like these matches, this event, I should say? Did you like my review of All Out? And let me know in the comments. But thank you all so much for watching. I will see you guys later. Peace.